Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Your host is Deborah Rue, CEO of Rue Global Impact, and co-founder and chairwoman of Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring billions of voices of persons with disabilities together. To join the global community and to donate to the cause, visit billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Rue, and I'm the CEO of Rue Global Impact. And we work with clients all over the world, making sure they're meaningfully including people with disabilities as customers and employees. I'm also the executive chair of Billion-Strong. So my guest today is somebody that I actually needed when my daughter was younger. It is Eric Jorgensen, and he is the CEO and founder of True North Disability Planning.com. And he considers himself a special needs navigator, which is a common, we hear the word navigator with special needs often in the United States, and goodness knows we need that because our systems are very, very complicated, and most of our families, we just really don't know all the rules, and they shift and change too fast. So I know that Eric has his own podcast and he talks about these things a lot, and I was seeing his work and I just loved what he was doing. So wanted to have him on the show today. So let me do a quick visual description. I am a mature woman with gray and white and purple hair, and I have on a black dress today with purple glasses, and of course I have some bling all around my face because with my eyeglass holder, because I love bling. So Eric, welcome to the program. Tell us about how much bling you've got going on.
Thank you, Deborah. I can't say I have any bling. So I'm going to use your word, mature Caucasian male with brown glasses, brown hair, what little I have left. It tends to be receding as I get older. I'm wearing a rather plain maroon shirt.
Great description, but no bling. All right.
No
cool.
bling.
So Eric, tell us about, tell us about how you got into this. How did this start? And also, I know you're going to explain to us what a special needs navigator is. So tell us your story. You have a powerful story, sometimes sad, but also sometimes good, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. And Deborah, thank you for having me. I think my story is similar to many of those who work in the disability space, in that I'm coming to it from personal experience. The prior to starting Special Needs Navigator, now True North Disability Planning, I was in the Navy. I did 20 years in the Navy, and I was retiring in 2012. I was supposed to retire in June, and my wife got a sudden illness, spent a week in the ICU, and I took her off life support in April. So I ended up extending till December. And, I know you've shared, you recently lost your husband. And so I'm very confident, just how much of it takes the wind out of your sails. And you were married much longer than I was. So,
yeah,
it sucks.
It hurts. Yeah. And then you have your special needs children too.
Right.
Still. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. My son is on the spectrum. He's got some other challenges. And, he was 12 when my wife died. And while she was alive, she would be his full-time caregiver. She didn't work. He would go to school, but when he wasn't in school, she was doing everything, helping him out. And when I would come home, I was deployed a lot, and I was a geographic bachelor's, meaning I lived in Cuba for 2 years, I lived in Virginia for 3 years. My wife and son were in Connecticut. So I'd come home every, 3 or 4 months for 2 weeks and pretty much just stay out of her way, because if I, you have a routine, and you don't need somebody else getting in there and messing it up. And I didn't really know much about what it meant to be a caregiver. And I still don't consider myself much of a caregiver. And so as I'm trying to get my son situated, and I'm trying to get out of the Navy, find a job, and figure out what's going on, I wanted somebody to make it easy for me in regards to what I need to do for my son. What am I supposed to be doing? He's transitioning to high school. What comes after high school? What am I not thinking about? What questions am I supposed to be asking that I'm not asking? But there's nobody at the time. I couldn't find anybody that would do that for me.
Which is still very common.
Right.
It's hard to find. And can I also say that um, as you just said, walking it. You also were in major grief, and so was your son. And I know my daughter with Down syndrome has been really struggling with trying to wrap her head around losing her father, which, by the way, me too, right? So I just want to add that little piece to it too.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting soup, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
loss of, and there was almost a loss of my identity from the Navy. Not, there's just 20 years is a lifetime.
Right, right.
You so I joined, I went into financial services because I thought a financial advisor gave advice. I was pretty naive. I didn't know it involved selling. I mean, I think I probably did. I don't want to, and I don't want to take the onus off of me, but it didn't really sink in how much selling was involved and how
Yes.
little advice there was, at least in the beginning.
I agree.
And then over the next couple of years, I bounced from firm to firm because I was trying to find something that was a better fit. I didn't want to sell insurance. I saw the need for it.
Right.
My wife didn't have enough insurance when she died, so I was renting a house and paying a mortgage in Connecticut, renting a house in Maryland, and that was, it was all I could do to stay afloat. So
Right.
I definitely saw the need for insurance, but it wasn't scratching the itch of families need help,
Yes.
especially families that don't have a lot of means.
Mhm.
And so I would bounce from financial firm to financial firm until 2020 came. And then I had to add, one more thing. I had cancer where they cut off the left side of my face because I had an aggressive melanoma. So
Wow.
you can't see it, but if you can draw a line from the bottom of your ear to the bottom of your your lip on the left-hand side, and then just draw an imaginary line underneath, along your face, underneath your eyelid, down your nose, and just that, like I said, it literally removed the left side of my face.
Wow. Wow.
So as I was recovering from that, and this was in March of 2020, right when COVID was starting.
Oh, good.
I'm like, well, I'm tired of being square peg, round hole. I'm tired of, and it wasn't fair to the companies I was working with, candidly, because I have this vision of what I want to do to serve the families with disabilities. And I really wanted to focus on intellectual development disabilities. I didn't want to do financial planning. I knew there was something else that needed to be done. Nobody was talking about benefits, resources, and services, and how to navigate that maze. And so I decided, as one does in the middle of a pandemic, let's start a business.
Or could it be? Yeah.
Right. And that's when I launched and I really incorporated. I had started Special Needs Navigator in 2017 as kind of a hobby, if you will, because I wanted to give the advice, but I couldn't really do it under the auspice of a financial advisor, or at least I didn't feel I could, because it wasn't financial advice. So I started Special Needs Navigator to give that advice. And then I rebranded this year because I felt I never say, and this could just be me, but I never say my son has special needs. I'm always very clear about his diagnosis,
Right.
or he just needs this assistance. And I haven't gotten a lot of personal pushback, but I've seen in the a lot of the social media, in the press, that special needs isn't really how people want to be identified.
I've heard that as well. I agree.
So I've rebranded to True North Disability Planning because I want to be respectful of that. Ultimately, I'm doing this to help families and professionals. And I've really doubled down on, if you have a child with moderate to severe, who's moderately to severely impacted by their disability, meaning you're probably going to care for them the rest of your life, you need somebody in your corner who's doing more than just saying, this is how much you need for retirement, which is important. But
I agree, but there's so many other steps, and there's special needs trusts, and it's so confusing.
And how do you decide what to do first, and where do you go? And
and do it right. You better do it right. Don't you mess up, Sarah. It's nerve-wracking, and everybody I know is scared of it. And Eric, are you looking at it across the United States or just state? Because I know every one of our states have different laws. Every one of our counties in our states have different laws, just to confuse us all completely.
Right. And
I wasn't sure. Yeah.
It's a great question, Deborah. And it started off in Maryland because I was being very selfish. I wanted to help my son. And my overinflated sense of justice took hold. And I was like, why is this so hard? Maybe it's easier in other states. It's not.
No, it's not.
So that turned into, I went through all 50 states and DC, and I've mapped out, I've created literally created roadmaps for what you need to do to transition your child from high school into adult services.
Wow.
And, and I've built them, but it took years, literally took years, but it was like, it's that thing that took a hold of me. And I'm like, this can't, I just cannot, once you've seen it, you can't ignore it, right? Like if you're doing a bathroom and you take the shower out and you see mold, you're not putting a new shower in until you get rid of the mold, right?
Hopefully.
Right.
Because that's a bad idea if you do. Right.
Yeah. So I decided, I am going to fix this. And it's in my mind, the disability space has become my windmill, and I'm here as Don Quixote, just out there chasing these things.
Oh yeah, I understand.
But it's to your question about the counties. I'm a 30,000 foot view guy, so I'm very good at explaining at a very macro level. Here's what you need to do at your state.
Okay.
Where I'm not going to be able to help somebody, and I'm hoping somebody else will come in and take up the mantle, is if I live in Michigan and I'm trying to find an agency for, pick a city in Michigan, in what agency should I be using? Well, I can't help there. I don't know. I mean, there's so much for me. I literally spend hours every day at the state, at the macro level. I'm really hoping that, and there may be people out there already doing it, really out there doing that at the state level, saying, let me help you. I know there's one company, if I can give them a plug, Vital Exchange is a company that has vital guides, and they're offering, parent and peer navigators who will, I believe it's at a state level, you hire Vital Exchange and you can set up time with these vital guides to get assistance. And I don't know too much of their business model, but I know they do cover things like IEPs and services. So.
Okay. And IEPs, which are individual educational plans here in the United States, and they're very, very complicated too. They're very, very complicated. And I remember I would go into my daughter's IEP meetings, and there is just, boy, you better be prepared. And most of us are not prepared. And even the people sitting in those meetings with you, they don't know what they're doing either. And I don't mean that in a nasty, negative way. It's just, there's just too much to know. And we put such burdens on our teachers to know everything, and they just can't. They can't know everything. And so even our special needs teacher. So it's a huge, huge step and mess. Well, I would be curious, how do customers work with you? How do they find you, Eric?
A lot of them will find me through my podcast, ABCs of Disability Planning, my YouTube channel by the same name of my company, True North Disability Planning. And I get a lot of referrals from professionals, financial advisors, college living experience, disability professionals are referring to me. And with regards to how they work with me, I really have 3 paths, two for professionals where I offer, I've branded something that I call the Chief Navigation Officer. I believe every company that is serving individuals with disability is going to need somebody in that company to help them navigate the maze of benefits, resources, and services. Just like you have a chief financial officer help you with the finances, you have a chief operations officer who's helping with the day-to-day operation of the company. So right now I'm offering professionals who serve the disability space, again, specifically intellectual development disabilities. I'll be your fractional chief navigation officer. So you don't need a full-time person, and you don't have to try to fill this role right now. So that's one way. I'm also offering professionals the opportunity to white label a lot of my roadmaps, because I recognize they're doing amazing work. And a lot of times they just need that extra tool or two to help them with their clients. So here you go, use my content. And then with the families, I will, they can either buy the roadmaps from my website. Again, I've tried to make it accessible by keeping the price, reasonable.
Okay.
Or they can hire me for consults. And I have a Pick My Brain, which is, literally you have questions, I have answers. I'm not going to do a ton of research or anything like that, but it's going to be an opportunity for you to get your questions answered. I have an I don't know package, which, I did it all with how I felt, right? I wished I could pick somebody's brain. I didn't know what I didn't know when my son was transitioning from high school. So
Right.
that I don't know package is meant to help you get from high school and adult services.
And which
And
is
then
such a hard, of all of the steps we took, that was the hardest transition. And
right, right.
failures, transition failures all over.
Yep.
And, and it's a very sad statement that many people who have special needs or disabled children say is that I hope I outlive my child.
Yes.
That's not something we say in society. And yet we are terrified of what's going to happen. I have a 35-year-old with Down syndrome. I mean, I'm doing my best to get her situated and stable. I had her stable and then she wasn't. And then my husband died. Right. And then life happens. Right. So.
Yeah, it's a question I get all the time from families is who's going to take over when I'm gone?
Right.
And it's not an easy answer, and to that end, the last package I have is too many moving parts, because that's how I feel like all the time, almost all the time is I'm running a business. I'm trying to be the best dad I can be. I'm in a relationship now. I want to be the best partner I can be, but there's just too many moving parts. How do I juggle all these? What's a glass ball? What's a rubber ball? What can I ignore? And what do I actually have to, that's why I try to keep my life is glass ball or rubber ball, because the glass balls you got to keep in the air. The rubber balls, nothing, whatever.
I love that. I'm going to have to steal that because that is so true. Which balls are you going to keep in the air? Keep the glass ones, keep them in the air. Yeah. Good analogy. Thank you. I will credit you with that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let me ask you a few questions that you said I could ask you.
Sure.
Only because they're really good questions. What is the biggest challenge professionals like family law attorneys and financial advisors face when working with clients who have children with intellectual disabilities?
I think in speaking as a financial advisor, when I was a financial advisor, I can't speak to family law attorneys. I feel and I believe that the biggest challenge is they don't necessarily know what they don't know. A lot of family law attorneys, a lot of states now are authorizing child support beyond the age of 18, which is great in terms of supporting a child, but it could also have very negative effects on things like Social Security and Medicaid, supplemental security income specifically, because it's a means tested benefit and it's affected by income. It's also, advisors want their clients to move forward on things, but they may not understand why a client is so hesitant or doesn't, I don't want to say care, but the retirement's not their priority, because like you just said, you do hear people say, I want to outlive my child, which is horrible.
I know.
But it's so hard for a parent, even, myself included, to worry about retirement planning when I'm trying to get my son set up and, like you pointed out, stabilized. I'm in the middle of working on getting him set up with another agency. Yeah. I don't care what my retirement portfolio is doing right now.
Nope, either. Got to protect my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's helping these professionals understand that. And those that have children with disabilities get it kind of because they're living it. And a lot of professionals, they go into this because they're helpers. So I think they have that intuitive, they understand something's going on, but if I can give them hey, this is what's going on, this is how you can really help your client now. If their concern is what's going to happen with the child, maybe your focus can be on helping them get set up with a service provider, or helping them understand, look, your child's 13. You have a lot of years before you have to worry about this. You've applied for the state Medicaid waiver. There's really nothing else you can do at this point. Let's focus on this thing, so so we don't stay in this constant state of reactivity.
Right. And I know that my daughter, which was a huge blessing because we don't all get them, got a full Medicaid.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It was wonderful because she was very, very ill and my husband was dying, but we're not getting any services. So I just called to the head of the agency saying, we're not getting any services. What's going on? She has a full waiver. So, and it's not their fault. It's because times are really hard for all of us. It just is. There's not enough people to work there. So we all have to be patient and understand we're just trudging through waist deep mud, or maybe it's all the way up to our chest. And still, you got to get all your work done, take care of your kids, get your business. Yeah.
Yep.
I know my producer, Doug, he has, two little ones, and his youngest one has an IEP, and his son, and just watching what they navigated in Massachusetts, it's tough. It's just tough.
And Massachusetts is one of the better states. I mean,
I
with
know.
Mass Health and
Yeah, and he put in the chat window. Well, actually, he's still fighting it. Okay, he had to hire an education advocate, which is what we're talking about, and they're still fighting it. So, oh well. And Massachusetts is one of the better states.
yeah, I mean, I'm originally from Mass, so
Okay, I mean it is one of the best states. So, so how can professionals that are supporting families, like just this one that we're talking about right now with Doug, the families who feel so overwhelmed and they're pushing for the action plan? I mean, where do they even begin, Eric?
So I'm going to use Doug as an example without really digging. And I don't know him. I don't know his personal story. I'm just going to use him because it's easier
wonderful.
than trying to be. So imagine if Doug is working with a financial advisor. He's working with, and he's working with an education advocate to get an IEP, and the financial advisor is saying, well, you need life insurance because if something happens to you or your wife, your children are going to be in a lurch. And Doug's a smart guy. He knows he needs life insurance, but he can't see beyond my children, Papa Bear, I need to worry about my kids. The odds of me dying are less likely than the odds of my kids suffering because it's happening right now with this IEP.
Mm-hmm.
So what an advisor can do is say, well, okay, I hear you, and you've hired the education advocate, and now we're going to let the education advocate do their job. But what you can do while the education advocate is doing their job, what you can do is you can start the process for this term insurance or whatever you're going to get. I'm using insurance because it seems to be the most common thing. It's what I was missing, to fund the special needs trust and protect your child. So let's get you started by getting the medical and getting your underwriting started. And by the time you get that started, you're going to be able to shift focus back to the education advocate, and you can let the insurance company do their thing. So you're really spelling it out for them. And sometimes, I know I had widower brain. I think there's the same thing for parents of children dealing with this, where you get so overwhelmed, you can't really think beyond even, I don't care if you've got 2 doctorate degrees, you can't think beyond the next, what's next for your child. So
Right.
Sometimes that professional just has to really break it down and say, you've taken all the steps you can take, as long as it's true. And if it's not true, if there's something else that the parent can do for the child, unless the parent is like, no kidding, going to step in front of a bus, help them get that done. And, let's say Doug didn't have an education advocate yet, and he was stressing about the IP. Then what the professional could do is say, hey, this sounds like something you're just beating your head against the wall. And maybe this is time to bring in a professional. I know an educational attorney, or I know an education advocate. Let me facilitate an introduction. I can be in the meeting with you. I know and this is Eric speaking for Eric, I like to have a third person in a lot of my meetings. When I got my cancer diagnosis, I had somebody in there with me because I was overwhelmed.
Right.
Let me, this is where the financial advisor can say, let me go out and help you get the education advocate or the education attorney and help you take over. If they don't, and if that financial advisor doesn't know someone, then they can reach out to me. But a lot of these advisors, they have such an amazing breadth of a network. They just need to know that the family needs to reach out, and it really comes down to taking that extra step. And sometimes as professionals, I think we get in our own way by saying, you need to do this. I know what's best for you because I can see what you're missing. I think sometimes, and maybe I'm just projecting, and maybe it is just me, but I think as professionals, we sometimes need to remind ourselves and put our parent hat on and say, oh crap, remember when I was like that? I needed somebody to hear me and acknowledge me and make sure I was, and address the problem at hand. Even if that's not your particular skill set, I'm betting you have somebody in your network who knows somebody, or somebody that you can and then really be that value player to the family that you're working with. I hope that wasn't too much of a rant, but
No. I thought that was really a good point. I thought you made a lot of really good points. And I appreciate Doug letting us use them. Not that he can say anything, but
Yeah, thank you, Doug.
but it is interesting when you talk about the action plan. Tell us more about that, because you've talked about the roadmaps you have on your website. And to be honest, the first thing I want to do is go out to your website and see what the roadmap is for Virginia, because I'm in Virginia. And any of you out there that are in the States, go out to his website. Once again, truenorthdisabilityplanning.com. And I mean, that seems like one of the easiest things we can do. But I know that when I was concerned, obviously, I knew my husband was going to pass away. He was actively dying. And I found an attorney, and I did what we do. I started asking around, and somebody recommended him. And it turned out that he had 2 small children himself. And coincidentally, he had a little daughter with Down syndrome, that, by the way, he was in special needs planning as an attorney before. Right. And so I liked that he was part of our community. I just liked, and I loved Stephen Burns in in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia. Stephen Burns, he's amazing. And the thing I loved about him is that I said, well, should I do this or should I do this? And he would always come up with a plan that I needed, but I would sometimes think I need this big thing. And he would say, all you actually, to achieve that goal and not take, for example, Sarah's rights away from her, all you have to do is do this. And I was like, you're kidding. I thought I had to. Nope. That's all you have to do. Oh, so hiring professionals, it really, really, really is needed because it's so complicated. And I imagine it's not any less complicated outside the United States, but it is very complicated. So shouldn't attorneys and financial counselors and, education coaches and everybody that's in the industry go to your website and get your guides? I mean, so that they know how to do this. I
would love that.
I think they should, because
I've built the roadmaps. Yeah, and I've also, I'm big on giving a lot of stuff away free. So I've also recognized that federal employees have unique challenges, unique benefits. Military has unique benefits. Families divorcing with so I've built checklists that you can get for free on the website. I mean, these are all, and I'm happy to give it to professionals. I mean, I've given talks to divorce groups. What I would also like to see professionals do, and candidly, I don't know how to do this. I would like to see them make their services more accessible. I mean, when you have an attorney whose billable hours are $350 an hour, it's out of reach of so many families, especially the BIPOC community, because I feel like they're often very underrepresented. We know their diagnosis is 2 or 3 years behind everybody else.
Right.
So I would love to see maybe you make planning light packages, or maybe you do. And I'm not an attorney. I know a lot of work goes into this, but I also believe there's probably a lot of prepackaged stuff that you have software for, and you just fill information in. And if I'm wrong, I apologize to the attorneys out there, but maybe there's a way that you can acknowledge that, look, not everybody can afford a $5,000 to $7,000 special needs trust.
Well, I will also say, I will remind everybody that disability goes all the way through the economic, and so there are families that are very, very wealthy, and there are, families that are very poor. It's everything in between. And so I don't know if we need to take on, and if we could take it on successfully, attorneys' rates, but I do think you have to do your homework, and you have to find the attorneys that care about it. Because just using my attorney, once again, Stephen Burns is an example. I went to him with that 5,000. Do I have to do this? And he was like, well, no, all you actually have to do. And I felt like he really had my back. Yeah. And so I really had expected to pay him a whole lot more money. But he said, but you don't need to do that, Deborah. All you need to do is this. That's and awesome. So to me, you find the Stephen Burns of the world, you find the Erics of the world, so that we can help each other. Professionals go out there and look at it. You want to be a better financial counselor and planner? Go out and learn this part of it. We need the support. So I would love to see what you're doing, because I know you've agreed to be part of Billion Strong as one of our global advisors. Thank you. But I'd love to see some of this go out on Billion Strong, because Billion Strong is certainly for the world, but we all learn from each other. Even if I look at what is the plan for Virginia, might be interesting to see what the plan is for South Carolina or Texas. And it might be interesting for somebody in Uganda to see what are they doing here, because maybe there's things we can adopt in our country or we can apply in our country. So I appreciate what you've done. I really.
And there is some exciting stuff happening over in different countries.
I know.
The UK is doing a lot.
Yes.
I am seeing stuff in Africa about different countries in Africa who are stepping up. And
yes. And MENA, the Middle Eastern, oh my gosh, they're doing so much in Asia. Oh yeah. Everybody is engaged. But one thing I still think we need to do is do a little bit more of what we're talking about here, sharing information. I also don't like hearing that you give so much away for free, because that's me too. And you slowly or fastly starve to death, which I'm not starving to death, but I've had people say, oh yeah, you just do that for free because there are people with disabilities. And I'm like, okay, now you just made me mad. But yeah, so we don't want you to do all your work for free, because you have to support yourself. You have to support your son. I mean, you have girlfriends. So I think it's time also that we pay people for the work that they're doing, especially if it's adding value. So I want to ask you one more question. When should parents start taking action?
As soon as they get a diagnosis.
Everything is important. How do they know where to go first? Yeah.
I want parents to take action as soon as they get that diagnosis. And this is where, again, professionals can help. So if you have a neuropsychologist giving you a diagnosis, it might be different now. I mean, my son was diagnosed, 21 years ago. So it's probably very different now. But when they give you that diagnosis, it would be amazing if they said, oh, your child has Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, this rare genetic disorder, what have you. Here's a list of organizations around the country who can support you, or depending on the country you live in, that can support you. And I don't know specifically what types of resources are out there, because, as a pediatrician or a neuropsych or what have you, they probably see a lot of different diagnoses.
Yeah.
But if they can have just kind of a, here's a Down syndrome pamphlet, here's a, what have you, right? Then that would be a great first step. And they can say, parents, before you do anything else, why don't you process what's going on? Here's the names of some support groups to help you process all this.
Right.
And then if you have an intellectual development disability, I want you getting enrolled with your state and making sure you're on the state's radar. If something does happen, your child's taken care of. And I have too many families coming to me whose children are 25, 30, 40, and they're not receiving any benefits. They didn't know they could apply. And it tears me up. It's like,
I know.
Where was the school?
I know.
And it's not fair to the school and teachers, to your point earlier. But so who is it? And this is my rant. Who is this going to decide? Who is telling parents this is what you have to do? This is when. And that's why I built the roadmap. But I'm not, I'm not global. I'm not universal. My guide for parents, if you have a child with a disability and you're trying to figure out what to do, I would really like you to think about what is going to have the most impact over the next 3 years. So if your child's 3 and you're making, and you're in the United States, you're making $100,000 a year, don't worry about SSI or Medicaid.
Right.
What you should be worrying about is birth to 3, or whatever that early intervention is called in your state or country, and getting enrolled, getting signed up for Medicaid waivers, even if you don't think you're. So this is another pet peeve of mine.
I'm guilty of what you're about to say.
Well, so I've had families tell me my case manager told me not to apply because the waiting list is too long and I won't get services. I don't care how long the waiting list is. If you're not on it, you're never going to get services. If you're on it and they give you funding, because this year, a lot of states have more funding because of COVID, and we're seeing states who are trying to clean their waiting lists.
Right.
Well, if you're not on the waiting list, you're screwed. And I want to shake the case managers that are telling them that. I'm sure they're well-meaning, and they're just trying to save the family frustration. But if you get a diagnosis, put your child on that waiting list.
Well, and let me tell you another thing that we shouldn't do is I just felt so many other people were so much more in need than my family. And so I didn't go on the waiting list. And I actually had a good friend of mine scold me and say, Deborah, you have to go on the waiting list. We don't know what the real numbers are if you don't. And then, of course, my daughter got in trouble. My husband got in trouble. Oops. So I also wanted to say that when I was going through that process of getting the Medicaid waiver, I actually had to write that I was going to let my daughter go live on the streets if they didn't help me. I had to say things that weren't true, but I was told by my advisor that if you don't do that, you're not going to get it. So I had to actually say that I'm going to throw my daughter out of the house. I'm not going to take care of her anymore, which I was not going to do that. But that made me mad that was the game. It just made me
to tell the state of Virginia that your daughter is now in crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Because my daughter's in so much trouble. I'm just going to throw her on the street. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, little pet peeve there. But
no, I share the frustration and anger.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, even if you sign up, and this is where I get so angry, is even if you sign up, there's no guarantee that your child is going to receive benefits. In the state of Connecticut, you could sign up when your child is born, and the child may never see benefits because there's such a long waiting list and so little money.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's ridiculous.
I know. Well, you know what? I know that I've kept you for 30 minutes, and this is what I want to do. I want to really encourage everyone to check out his website and check out his podcast because he's doing really, really powerful work. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to give him a little grant, maybe $1 billion strong, so he could build some stuff for us so that everybody can get it. So, I just want to be conscious because I know people are going to say, but Deborah, how do we get a hold of him? So, Eric, tell people how they can get hold of you and they can see what's on your website. And I know you're on LinkedIn and things like that. So
my Facebook and my LinkedIn my company websites are True North Disability Planning. I'm at Needs Nav on Twitter, and my YouTube channel is True North Disability Planning, and my podcast is ABCs of Disability Planning.
Cool.
And Eric at specialneedsnavigator.us for the email.
Yes. And also, Eric, send me all those links and I'll make sure we attach them to the podcast so that everybody has them. But once again, Eric is working in the United States. I know laws are different all over the world, but he's got some really good resources out there and his podcast is excellent. So I definitely recommend him. And we're so impressed with him that we really want to try to figure out how we can take some of his content and get it out on Billion Strong so you all can see it there too.
Thank you, Deborah. And I want to offer, if there's somebody in another country who wants to build something similar, I am happy to share what I did and what worked and what didn't work. And if I can save you some time, please let me, because it's been a journey.
Yeah. And, wouldn't that be cool if we had some corporate brands that wanted to support that through Billion Strong? Because I know we have 90 disability persons organization country partners. 90 countries have joined Billion Strong. So yeah, we'll talk about that too. So anyway, thank you so much to the audience. Once again, it is TrueNorthDisabilityPlanning.com. And Eric Jorgensen's really making an impact. And I know your late wife is so proud of you and how you've taken care of her baby. Thank you, Eric. And thank you to the audience. And also special thanks to my wonderful producer, Doug Foresta, behind the scenes. Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Human Potential at Work. To learn more about Rue Global Impact, visit rueglobal.com. And to learn more about Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring the billions of voices of persons with disabilities together, you can join the global community and donate at billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org.